welcome everyone. My name is Ismail Ray Reyes, and I am happy to be with you today to present this amazing project in an A++ location in a phenomenal city. Here's our disclaimer. Bottom line, all investments have risk. Please review all materials carefully before investing. This presentation, along with other pertinent documents, will be available for your review in our investment portal. We'll provide additional details on this at the end of this presentation. This investment is only for accredited investors. Let's start off with a couple of pics of this beautiful property to kick off this presentation. This is the recently upgraded common area that includes a fire pit for the community. And here, just to the other side of the fire pit, is this great built-in barbecue area with an overhead pergola. I'd like to kick us off by introducing one of the sponsors, JP, who found this terrific asset. JP?
Hey, my name is JP Albano. I'm the co-founder of Significant Lifestyle Communities. I'm really excited to be speaking to you about this particular deal in Buckhead. It's an amazing deal, an amazing opportunity. My partner, Matt, and I, who co-founded the company, we have over 600 units across 3 different states. We also own and operate the in-house property management company that will be managing this asset called Significant Property Management. It's through this business that we deliver our unique value proposition known as our Antastafe style of management. And based on this exclusive license of the primer ethic, which we will cover later, and the benefits that bring to our investors and, of course, the members of our community. You can go to the next slide. So let's jump into this primary ethic. What the heck exactly is it? So before I can get into this, let me give you the quick backstory, the origin of Significant and where this kind of came into play, because it's a really interesting story and I love telling it. So I got to rewind a couple of years ago. My partner, Matt, and I decided to get into multifamily apartments and buy larger deals. And we were going about our ways and things were good. Up until this point, as a previous IT person, and I kind of realized along the way that one of the benefits of being good at IT was you get this secondary benefit, which almost became the primary benefit of helping people. And the reward that you get, the feel good that you get when you help someone out that's in kind of dire straits. And when we got into multifamily, I wasn't really able to kind of bridge the gap between how do I use multifamily and real estate to get that feeling back of helping people. Well, fast forward or rewind, I guess you should say, back until about 2019. I went to a 300-person networking event. It was a 3-day event in Sundance, Utah. And I got there late the first night, and they had kind of dinner set out for everybody and all their tables and everything. And everyone was mid-conversation. And all the way in the back of the room, there was an older gentleman sitting by himself, white hair, white beard. The guy you saw on the previous slide there, his name is Howard. So I walk over, I introduce myself because I thought to myself, maybe I should go sit next to the old guy. Maybe I'll go learn something. So I walk over, introduce myself. Hi, I'm JP. Hi, I'm Howard. Nice to meet you. He asked me what I do. I say, well, I buy large multifamily apartments. He goes, it's amazing. I've had 4,000 units over my 20-year career. And I think to myself, oh, wow. So I sit down. I spent a lot of time with him. Actually, over the course of 3 days, really. But I learned a lot about him. I learned that he has a unique skill set in crafting language in a certain way. I'll get to that in a second. I learned that he was very successful in his various careers throughout his life, and he had a really amazing approach to housing. I also learned that he was very influential in the startup, the 90s startup community back in Seattle. He was his advice to Howard Schultz, which if you don't know who that is, Howard Schultz is the founder of Starbucks. And when Howard was going around raising money for Starbucks, it was kind of like a crazy idea. You're going to sell coffee for how much? I could buy a cup of coffee at the corner store for 25 cents, right? So he told Howard Schultz, your business is not about selling an expensive cup of coffee. It's about the culture of coffee. And that's predominantly why you go into a Starbucks today and you order a venti or latte or macchiato or frappuccino or whatever your poison is. And so when Howard got into housing, he applied his same skill set to that to kind of solve a problem. The problem he was trying to solve was not how to sell a cup of coffee, but it was how do we break down the combative landlord-tenant dynamic that happens, whereby if you're the landlord, you're like, look, I don't really care who's living there. The renter or the tenant is a commodity. I can get, it's not you, it's somebody else. And if you're the renter, you're like, look, I don't care. I just pay rent. It's not my place. If it breaks, not my problem. And what you want to do instead is you want to foster a culture of belonging, a sense of pride and ownership, because pride and ownership is where people start taking care and kind of give a crap about where they live. And that's the key here. So Howard kind of created this whole paradigm whereby in his communities, he invited people to become members of the community. They weren't renters. They weren't tenants. They weren't residents. They lived in a home, not an apartment, not in a unit. They paid a membership fee, not rent. They signed a membership agreement, not a lease. They work with a membership coordinator. See where I'm going with this? And one of the two other important roles in these communities were that of the community mayor. They weren't the property manager; they were the community mayor, and their main job was to love on the members of the community. And the other important role is typically known as the maintenance person, maintenance people. Well, the truth is they're not doing maintenance; they're providing service, and providing service to your customer, making your customer number one, was really what it was all about. And so, in hearing this from Howard and understanding how he was able to really transform these communities and also like prove out that it was fantastic for business, it really inspired me. And I after they end the 3 days, I said, Howard, how the heck is it? I find the one person out of all these people that is in multifamily is remarkable. I said, clearly God and the universe decided to put us together. So we ended up hiring Howard as a strategic consultant to help us build a spiritual successor to what he did 20 years ago. And there was one other point that I forgot to make, but I'll go back into it. Was one of the last decisions a prospective member would make before moving in is what color they wanted the walls painted. Howard figured, look, as an operator, I'm going to turn the unit, or I'm going to turn the home. I'm going to paint the walls anyway. Well, he figured, let me let the person living in there choose the color of the wall. And even if they chose, I should say, the default color of gray or beige, there was a profound psychological effect that happened. And that was really important because now, as I mentioned earlier, the person that's living there, the member, they have a sense of pride and ownership. And the pride and ownership is key because they will take better care of their home. And Howard proved that. And if we look at the statistics here in this sheet, these are some highlights. So the industry turnover is around 55% or greater than 55%. His turnover was less than 37%. So less people leaving is less economic vacancy. It's less turn costs, which in today's day and age could be $300 to $600 per unit each time someone leaves your property there. Plus the cost and overhead of finding that prospective member, right? The cost for marketing and all those things. And also his employees were really happy. So he had less employee turnover. And he was the guy leading the market rents in his particular areas. And he really pushed the gas pedal down on generating other ancillary income, providing additional services, housekeeping services, pet walking services, things like that. So Howard was really a large trailblazer in the multifamily industry, and it completely changed the way that we looked at how we could do housing, and kind of finishing up this idea, this concept I mentioned earlier about this idea that how do I bridge the gap and get that feeling back of how do I help people. This is the way we help people. This is how we improve the quality of life of people that live in our community. And think about when you're making your customer number one, our members, the people that live in our community number one, and serving them, how much better they can be a husband or a father or a wife or children living in that community. And that's really what kind of inspires us and causes us to wake up in the morning and do this every day. So that's what the primer ethic is. And as having an exclusive license for the primer ethic with my property management company, we're able to deliver this sort of style of management in our communities. We also own and operate three other assets other assets in the Atlanta area as well. I'm local to Atlanta myself, so we're excited about the Buckhead deal. So enough about that. Let's go to the next slide, Ray. So the rest of the sponsor team, we've got MTN Group, the great group of guys. This is a group that I partnered with on a previous deal in Atlanta, and they bring over 2,100, well, collectively, I've already over 2,400 multifamily units of experience. All of them bring not only the unit count, but also just operational experiences. The team has a proven track record of exiting deals or round tripping deals, as they say in the industry, whereby you buy a deal, you do the value add, and then you exit. And they're part of the reason why I was able to connect with Ray and his team was through MTN. And so we're partnering with them. They're going to be providing the guidance and relationship with the lender through Russell's organization, and then Charles' organizations. We're bringing in the asset management along with Ray's team.
Thanks, JP. It's great to work with you and with members of the MTM team, which, as you mentioned, my team has had the pleasure of working with on several deals in Florida and Georgia. Speaking of my team, the Admirable Group is a result of many successful partnerships between team members over the course of several years. And what brought us together is our passion for investing in multifamily real estate as a primary method of creating generational wealth. And most importantly, our core belief in integrity, to be honest, sincere, and responsible to each other and to our investment partners. I am the managing partner with over 900 doors valued at over $100 million. I retired, as many of you have heard before, from the US Army, and after 28 years of service, I retired to do this, and I love it. Winston Schofield is a director of operations and has over 600 units that are valued at $48 million. And like JP, he is local to Atlanta and will be able to assist the sponsor team with the on-the-ground operations and CapEx oversight. Here's the rest of our superstar team. Alfredo Hooker is our director of finance. Tim Little is our director of research and analytics. Kelly Iannone is our director of marketing and investor relations, and Carla is our director of acquisitions. You will hear from Tim, Kelly, and Carla later on in this presentation, but first, let's start with an executive summary of this acquisition. Location is the most important factor in real estate, and Peachtree Hills, a 118-unit property located in the highly sought-after Buckhead district of Atlanta, Georgia, aces that test. The average household income in Buckhead is approximately $167,000, and there is an abundance of professional employment opportunities. We're going to take this property that already had $1.5 million in repairs, primarily to its exterior, and execute a value add plan. And we're going to do this by focusing on interior renovations, of which only 11 units have been renovated, which leaves plenty of meat on the bone for us. We'll renovate all units by the third year and refinance, returning 100% of investor capital. We plan on holding this asset for approximately 5 years, but market conditions will dictate if we sell sooner. Investors, you will earn a 7-pref with a projected return of 18% and over a 1.7x equity multiple. Here are your investment highlights with some impressive projected returns, as I mentioned before. And these are based off conservative underwriting. It's important to note that these returns do not take into account the potential for significant tax savings to investors as well, based on the 75 to 80% of first-year depreciation via cost segregation. So let's start our deep dive with a macro look at the Atlanta MSA. Both JP and Winston, and even us Floridians, know all about the growth and development going on in hot Atlanta. While using hot Atlanta to describe the city may not be appreciated by the locals, as I was told when I toured the property, it is a very appropriate way to discuss real estate in Atlanta. It is hot. In 2021, Atlanta was voted #1 for most livable city, most traveled airport in the world, and moving destination in the nation. Atlanta has a very low vacancy rate, strong rent growth, and an incredible business climate. Rent growth has been historically high and has actually picked up the pace over the last few years. Atlanta is among the top 5 cities in the country with the most Fortune 500 companies, which drives jobs, and over $400 billion in revenue. Those that have heard me speak at events during my monthly meetup or on YouTube know that before I look at individual assets, I focus on what I call the big 3: population, economic, and job growth. And Atlanta most definitely meets that criteria. A thriving technology and innovation industry is also something I look for. And again, Atlanta's got it. As a modern city, Atlanta has a robust transportation infrastructure with massive improvement and development projects totaling $800 million. One of these developments is actually about a 5 to 10 minute walk from the property at the Lindbergh station, which is undergoing a mixed-use development. Atlanta has a prolific pool of intellectual capital, Great schools create great employees, and the talent, which attracts companies to set up shop to hire this talent. Plus, the number one thing people with children look for when moving to an area are great schools. We've got that here. On the parks and recreation front, there is a 190-acre central park near the property and many other incredible park systems. The park systems alone account for 30,000 jobs. Atlanta has world-class entertainment and dining with close to 60 million in annual visitors. That was fast and furious. And for the sake of time, I didn't go too deep into any one slide, but I encourage you to log into our investment portal and review these in detail. What all these slides amount to is this: Atlanta has a very strong and diverse economy and the infrastructure and amenities that attract people and businesses. I will now turn it over to Kelly to discuss the Buckhead submarket.
Thanks, Ray. Now that we've all seen what's great about Atlanta itself, let's dive just a little bit deeper into the Buckhead submarket, where this fabulous property that we're presenting to you is located. The property is located in the affluent Buckhead district, perfectly positioned in Atlanta's top business district, and is home to Atlanta's financial district. Providing a strong employment base, Buckhead's average household income is just shy of $170,000, which further supports the projected rent growth from the value add business plan that this project is projecting. The desirable location of this property, along with the prestigious employer base, attracts young single professionals who may work downtown or midtown Atlanta, but don't want to pay the downtown prices, which works out great for us at the park at Peachtree as the clientele that we serve here. Located near Atlanta's top lifestyle and entertainment options, our property is located centrally in the greater Atlanta MSA, providing easy accessibility for our residents to take part in all that Atlanta has to offer. In fact, when we go through the process of due diligence and our sponsors are meeting current residents of the property, we ask them, what is it that they love about the particular property? And one of the things that the team heard over and over again is the location and the proximity to all of the hot things to do in Atlanta. And this just makes us feel so confident about what we'll be able to continue to provide moving forward once we reposition this asset in this beautiful A+ area. Honing in a little bit more about what I said earlier, with this being an affluent market, Buckhead, and more specifically, the Park at Peachtree apartments, are located in the heart of an affluent area that is surrounded by more than a half a dozen multi-million-dollar home developments, as you can see right here on this graph. For those that want to live in this location without having to buy a home in the multi-million dollars, the Park at Peachtree gives them a viable option to rent at a much more affordable price while still having all the luxuries of the community. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Tim to dive further into the business plan.
Thanks, Kelly. Next slide, please. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is go over some of the amenities that can be found at and around the property. The first thing that I'll mention is that it's really close to public transportation, and Ray will be hitting on that a little bit later in the presentation. There's also easy access to Peachtree Hills Park, which is a beautiful park in the area. There are also several other parks in the general vicinity. There's easy access to shopping and dining, which is something that the demographic that we'll be targeting, which is those young professionals, they really want to see that, and they want to be close to that stuff. And there's a lot of other smaller things too, like an electric car charging station, which just adds that extra level of convenience for any of the folks that do have electric vehicles, laundry facilities, so they don't have to go off site, on-call maintenance for any problems that might arise. And then there's some of the newer amenities that have been added by the current owner, such as that beautiful picnic area with barbecue grill down there. You see that pergola down in the bottom left-hand corner. You got the pergola providing some shade, and then that amazing grill setup out there. And then you also have the resident lounge with fire pit. You see those beautiful pavers with that nice outdoor seating area surrounding the fire, which will be great when the weather's just chilly enough to get out there and make some s'mores. And then, of course, we have a pool in the facility, which we will be working to make even nicer than it already is. Next, I want to dive into the business plan a little bit and really help you understand what we're going to do to take full advantage of this amazing opportunity that we have to have this property that's in a wonderful area that we've gone over so much. The fact that we have it under contract. First, we'll hit on the interior renovations. And what we say here is that we're going to raise it to the Buckhead standard. Now, you may be asking yourself, what exactly does that mean? Well, simply put, if you're in $1 million neighborhood and you have laminate countertops and white appliances, well, that just isn't going to cut it. And we recognize that coming into this. So what we're going to do is we'll be putting high-end finishes on what are a lot of really outdated units, really to bring it up to what the tenants expect coming into a property of this caliber and in a neighborhood of this caliber. And you'll see more details on that in the next slide. We'll also be focusing heavily on landscaping and general curb appeal, because it's really important for us. Let's face it, potential tenants make their first impressions when they drive by the property. And if that's not something that wows them, that attracts them, then you're going to be losing tenants. So we really want to bring that wow factor to the property, especially that curb appeal. We've also identified other opportunities for additional income. And one great example of that is the storage lockers. So we noticed that behind the laundry facility, there was storage lockers that were largely going unused. And so that was a serious missed opportunity. And what we wanted to do was take advantage of that. And our market research has shown that the minimum price for storage units of this size is around $80. So if we present this to tenants to say, hey, you can have these storage units for $60, then the tenants are paying less than they otherwise would, and they never have to leave the property. So that's a huge win-win for them. And of course, another source of income for us. We will also be providing high-speed internet through a third-party vendor who will go ahead and give us a percentage of each contract that's signed up. Of course, other amenities like Amazon lockers have just come to be expected at properties like this. So we'll have that as well. That's something that we'll be installing. And then we'll have a couple of other upgrades, parking upgrades, taking that parking lot and really making it look a lot better, as well as pool maintenance. Again, making that area look just a little bit nicer too, to bring it up to where it should be. All said though, we expect that the implementation of this business plan will increase rents through lease turnover on average about $500 by year 3. That's a huge increase in the profitability and the value of that property. So now we just wanted to go over some of the specifics of the renovations that we'll be doing on the interiors. As I said, this is not really an area where you can go cheap, especially when you're in an area surrounded by $1 million homes. Those pictures that you see are the before pictures of current units, and the after photos again are of current units. That is not an artist rendering. That's actually a renovated unit that the current owner did to kind of try to test the markets for a much more premium interior. And I think you would agree with me in saying that that is a striking difference between those before photos and those after photos. And so while some of the finishes that we'll be using may vary slightly for what you see in those after pictures, we guarantee that they'll be at the same level of quality. I would like to point out that you can see it a little bit there in the upper right-hand corner. A lot of the living areas still have natural wood throughout. And while a lot of owners would probably come in here and just reflexively start putting in vinyl plank flooring, because that's what everybody does, we made the strategic calculation that it made a lot more sense to just go ahead and refinish those beautiful natural wood floors and save that money that otherwise would have been put to, putting in new flooring, and put it towards other high-end appliances or around the property. It just didn't make sense with these floors being in such good condition. And once you put the time, money, and effort into refinishing them, they do come out quite beautiful. And it's at a much lower cost than it would be to just replace those floors, which would really just be covering them up anyways. And then you see some of the other unique attributes that we'll have in these units: modern LED lighting packages, core stainless steel appliances, and those hard countertops, quartz and granite. And then some options with things like two-tone paint, and then the undermount kitchen sinks. Next, we're going to go into the CapEx budget. And I think the first thing that you'll notice here is that it's pretty sizable. It's pretty normal when looking at projects, to especially multifamily value add, to see average budgets of between $8,000 and $12,000 for interior renovations. Well, if you take a look at ours, you see studio upgrades at $18,500, one bedroom upgrades at $20,500, and two bedroom upgrades at $22,500. Now, those are significant budgets, but it really goes into all those premium finishes that we just discussed and saw many pictures of, and that you can see down here in these pictures before and after as well. You just can't go cheap on some of this stuff. So we're really putting in the money to get that return on investment for those rents that we believe we'll get by putting in those finishes. The other thing that I would like to point out on here is at the bottom is the exterior building improvements. Now you see that price tag, $360,000. Now that is significant, but it really goes to that curb appeal that I was discussing earlier. When someone's driving past, again, they're going to make immediate judgments. And so it has to have that wow factor, right from the sign to the greenery, down to the parking lot itself. You can't have potholes and quick fixes. It has to be perfect. So that's why we'll be putting so much money into those exterior building improvements, so that we can have that wow factor for anyone driving by, but also so that we can retain the tenants that we do have and ensure that they have that pride in ownership of living there, because that's important to us as well. But all said and done, we believe that this significant investment will provide significant payoff, and we will see that return on investment in spades based on the value that it'll provide. All right, and next I'm going to kick it off to Carla so she can go through the financials with you.
We will now take you through the financials, and we will start with the comps. Peachtree is located right here, and we looked at the average rental rates of all of the comps in the area that are like Peachtree. The average rental rates for studios are around $1,400, one bedroom $1,687, and two bedrooms $2,000. We decided, just based on our analysis of the area, that we really need to come in at a sweet spot, not too high, not too low, really right in the middle of the pack. And when we dove a little bit deeper to understand the dynamics of the market, we determined that our rental rate should be a little bit under the average of the prevailing comps in the area. So our studio rents will come in at $1,319 versus the average of $1,433. The one bedrooms will be priced at $1,395 versus $1,687. And the two bedrooms will be priced at $1,613 relative to the comps at $2,000. What's interesting to note is that the closest comps in the area, even though they have higher rents, they're not even recently renovated. And The comps that have been recently renovated are 100% occupied. So supply is limited in that respect, but it really speaks to the fact that this is such a desirable area that folks are willing to pay a premium. But we wanted to move forward with a very grounded and conservative rental assumption. And again, that just speaks to the potential for upside in years to come. Let's take a look at the 5-year pro forma. Let's dig a little bit into the economics of this project. As you can see on the left, we have the T12 and years 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 subsequently laid out here. As you know already, we're driving rents up and we will achieve 2.6 million in year 1 in gross potential rent. We're also increasing other income. And what's included in that other income? It is adding fiber optic, a technology package, and we will include storage lockers underneath the building, as well as initiate flat rate bill back of utilities. That is going to be a significant component of really capturing an increase in operating income for year 1. Also, if you notice right here, there's a big gap in the P&L, and that is the turnover cost. And why is that blank right there? Well, we are investing in the renovation of every unit, and it will be almost just a start over. It'll be a brand new unit. So there will not be turnover costs year over year until the renovation plan is completed. But as you can see, the NOI increases each year thereafter, and we have targeted our rental rates to grow at a modest 4% per year. So by year 5, with the changes that we are making in our business plan, we will have achieved an NOI of $2,078,357. So that's a nice jump from 1.3 in year 1 to year 5. So what does that mean for you in your investment relative to your investment in this particular property? So let's take a look at the profit share. This is the page I'm sure you're most interested in. As you can see, we do not pay ourselves anything until our investors earn at least 7% return. So anything between 0 and 7 is 100% of cash flow to you, the investor. Once we do exceed 7%, anywhere from 7 to 10, the split becomes 90-10. From 10 to 16%, it's 75-25, and anything over 16% is 40-60. So as you can see, we are highly motivated to get to that 16% preferred return as quickly as possible. So let's take a look at projected returns, assuming a minimum investment of $100,000. We expect to pay about 4.5% of your capital back in year 1 and 11% in year 2, which translates to about $11,000. Now in year 3, that is when our first capital event will take place. As you know, we will have finished renovations and we will refinance the property. We actually anticipate being able to return 100%, if not more, of your capital in year 3. That's a pretty exciting proposition. I mean, most properties do return something in year 3, but very seldom do you hear of 100% or more. And we feel really good about this proposition. So if you think about it, by year 3, you've gotten all your capital back and then some, which frees you up to reinvest that into another property. And the added benefit is in years 4 and 5, you continue to get cash flow, free-flowing cash flow that adds to your overall investment return. So by year 5, when we exit the plan at a projected cap rate of 5.5%, which is very conservative, we expect that the overall project will have delivered a 17.6 IRR and an equity multiple of 1.68, meaning you will have received back 168% of what you originally invested. And that translates into an average annual return of almost 14%. Now, I mentioned we're exiting at a 5.5 cap rate, right? Well, specifically properties of this ilk, for lack of a better word, this quality are typically experiencing a cap rate in the high 2s to low 3s. So our 5.5% cap rate is extremely conservative, and we feel really good about the upside potential by year 5. So now that we've covered projected returns, let's consider the additional benefits of bonus depreciation. You could be eligible for up to 75 to 80% of your investment amount. That could be considered bonus depreciation. And of course, that's subject to your personal tax situation, which we always advise to discuss with your CPA or tax advisor. Let's review the investment highlights. This exciting Buckhead property. As we mentioned, you will achieve potentially a 7% preferred return, passive IRR target of 17.6%, and an equity multiple of anywhere between 1.7 and 2.2. That's an exciting proposition, and we are thrilled to be able to offer this opportunity to you. I'd like to hand it off to Ray.
Thanks, Carla. So here's our deal timeline. And as you can see, we are scheduled to close on this property on June 1st. So if you would like to invest in this deal, log into the investment portal now and subscribe. Depending on the location of this video, the links are either going to be below or directly clickable from the video. All documents are available online and everything can be accomplished through the e-signature on the investment portal. I can't stress enough that this is a first come, first serve investment opportunity. So don't hesitate, or you may find yourself on the outside looking in. This happens every deal. We always get 1 or 2 investors that ponder and either can't get their documents together or just are delayed somehow, and they end up not getting in deals that they want to get in. And so what happens is they learn their lesson and they are kind of the first ones that sign up on new deals. Happens every time. So don't wait. So the minimum investment in this is $100,000, but most investors are coming in with more. Some of them are coming in with 250K, some are even a little bit higher. So please contact us with any questions you may have. And speaking of questions, we will actually have a live Q&A session on May 17th. That's a Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So please register to join us. The registration link again will either be right on this video or below in the description of the video, as in YouTube. So we look forward to partnering with you. And one thing that was not mentioned, but I think is important for everyone to understand, is that us, the sponsors, are investing $1.3 million of our own money on this deal. We believe in the deal. It's a great deal. And I wouldn't ask you to invest in a deal that I don't invest in myself. It's just the way I do business. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And we hope that this was useful to you and that you invest with us.